So what's up guys? Another video. I'm gonna talk about something that's, in my opinion, the best way of progressing in this game. So let's always keep farming, doing on that on the side right now. So that's number one. But the number two that I'm actually gonna talk about is raiding. And raiding, the moment you can start doing some raids, you should do it. R3 is already worth it. This is for like your newer players out there, but also for super high-end players. Also for guys, like if you're stuck at any point that you feel like, hey, I'm not progressing, try to put everything aside you're doing at the moment. Try to stop like 6-starring, stop your normal dungeons, start raiding. And I can show you in this small example why it's so important to raid. Like here, it's a simple blue rune. This rune is not that interesting, right? Just 15 attack, 10 speed. Let's say if we would have it on a level 12, and the other substats would be, let's say you get a defense, you get a 6, and you get a, let's say flat HP for like 200 or something. Save that one, switch it up. It's currently 68%. That's barely anything. It's not that interesting of a rune. But then you start raiding. Then you actually start like heavy raiding. So let's say you roll this into a 6, which is quite reasonable. You roll this into a 13. You roll this into another 6. And let's say you take this away and you enchant it for HP. Let's say it hits an 8, which is reasonable. And then you grind it for another 6. So 14. So watch what happens. So it was 86%, right? Or 68%, sorry. 68%. Like, oh. That's not much. That's a fucking stupid rule, 68%. But then with all of these upgraded stats, we save that shit. Boom. 93. We went from 68% to 93% on a rune simply because we enchanted it, we grinded it, and stuff like that. And that's what happened for a simple rune. Imagine what happens on an actual legendary rune or a really good rune or stuff like that. So that's the thing. You can barely, like, I know some people like myself, I raid like a lot, like really a lot, and I'm still on the point where it's like, okay, my best upgrades are probably coming from doing more raids. So let's take, for example, my best rune, and let's reverse engineer it back to its original state. So I have to switch this to legendary. Boom. This is my best rune. This is an energy rune. Insane stats, 120%. Well, a little bit less. It's 199.94. Can still do a couple of upgrades, but let's reverse engineer it to what it was. So this is actually a 6. This is 18. This one was, I think, flat HP for 200. And this all stays the same. Yes, Jesus. So it's 120%. Let's see what happens. Actually, it's gonna be more difficult to find this rune back if I save it, but let's just see what happens. So yeah, rune is completely gone in this list right now. I'm gonna have to search it up. It's rune 749. Too far. 749. There it is. 93%. So it's still a good rune because I know it has potentials. And currently it still shows as orange. It's officially not orange, but I just changed it within the system here. But that's the thing, it's a 93% rune right now, which is good, but it's not that interesting. I have like a shit ton of like 100% runes. But all of these 100% runes are because they're maxed out grind, they're super grind. And that's the thing, like if you would, like the moment you would grind too much, I can show you an example how if you're using Summoner's War Rune Optimizer. I got a couple of videos on those, we'll link those in the description. Definitely check those out, it's super helpful too. Also if you think like, yeah man, I can do it by myself, I know all my runes. Yes, I also do, but this stuff is just really helping out. That's just for sure. But yeah, I can show you, if you do too much rating, let's say, I just put it on my highest efficiency, just don't mind the actual stats, but look at how much orange you see. It's all orange. Everything is orange, 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 orange. And that's how much you need to rate if you really want to improve. Like if you have this tool and you go through your box and you see like in the first, I'm at page 14, it's still pretty much all orange. Like this one is not. First one pretty much like page 15. Like it just keeps going, keeps going. I saw like 1, 2, 3. I'm page 32. I'm 300 runes in and still everything is completely pretty much orange. And this is the point where 400 runes in, maybe 500 runes in, start getting more non-orange stats. Yeah, I see some here and there popping up. But that's the thing, man. All of my runes are like completely grinded out, and that's why you get like so much potential for your runes. And at any point of the game, like the moment you can start doing raids, you should be doing raids. And that's the thing. R3 is already worth it. For sure, R3 is not that difficult. Same, R4 not that difficult. R5 could be a little bit difficult to get into, but they are worth it, for sure. So here I have an account. It's from a friend of mine, and he's also saying at some point like, hey, kinda got stuck, right? I can't do like R5, that's too difficult. I want to upgrade, but I'm just like continuously farming like giants and dragons, but it's not getting much better. So it's like, okay, let me look at it. Okay, you got a couple of good units, you pulled some good units here and there, some like heavy RTA units, straight up. But start, like, how much did you raid? It's like, yeah, barely. It's like, yeah, I can see like all of these runes are like, it's too white. It's not orange. It almost sounds like a stupid racist joke, but I want your runes to be orange. Like, I want these stats to be orange. So, and of course, don't go like grinding out all of your runes because you got like especially lower end players. You got a lot of runes you're probably not gonna care about end game, especially all of these 5-star runes. You only want to enchant and grind out your best runes that you have. So, and what I mostly do for myself is like I use my highest tier of enchants and grinds on my highest tier runes, and then I save like the blue ones, or in case you just started out raiding the green ones, for like the 5-star runes. So that's a way like to kind of divide it. So I was looking at this stuff like, okay, but you can easily start to raid. Oh, is this one actually missing a rune? Did I see it correct? No. So going for this account into raid. If you're looking at it now, like now, it's like, oh, okay, like this is beginner level raid. I'm not gonna look at it. I'll leave a couple of timestamps in the description down below, and I'm going through over like some paths of like at some point what kind of like raid should you look into at what point and stuff like that. So I'm gonna start from like beginner raids all the way until like far end game kata raids, which I'm doing myself. And I think that's pretty much like the highest tier of raiding which you can get right now. So as of a start, if you can only do raid 1, raid 2, I wouldn't recommend it. The moment you can start doing raid 3, I do recommend it. What's the moment you start making a raid team? Pretty much after you beat giants for like a month, maybe 2. I think that's reasonable. Maybe a bit longer, but you need some specific monsters which you will only find for raid. Some of them have overlapping. I will put up like a spreadsheet. I'll also link the spreadsheet in the description of like units that you can use and what are their replacements as you progress in the game or get better or like the best tier. So currently you have this matchmaking system. It is not the best. Like this is the point where you actually want to get a good guild around your level with more people, show them this video, I guess, and say like, hey guys, I want to progress. And maybe you set some fixed times where you start raiding, or maybe you have like a group thing in your guild where everyone just starts raiding and stuff, because this you gotta wait for a while to actually a party to pop up and stuff like that. So yeah, try to find a guild on your level, especially for like raid 3, raid 4. Raid 5 you can mostly have like channels somewhere in your server, depending on the server. And let's see, what's the best team for this guy? I need a cleanser in there. So yeah, this is nearly free to play. So let's see how it runs out. I think this guy for the account is on the level that he can do R3s. So as I was saying, get a guild, get some people you can raid with these people, and maybe set like specific times or whatever, or just like try to join like random groups. And this is gonna be laggy because this device is not that good. And yes, I'm kind of carrying so far. He actually got quite some good units set up for raids. But like if you check the runes, it's not that difficult. Well, he also has, well, he actually doing Kata raids already. He's not gonna get immunity buff, so that's not gonna help actually. But like all of these runes, also for these guys, barely anything is grinded out. Barely anything. Like it's good that these guys are doing raids. Also, keep like a slot in your friend list if you're like beginning as raiding. If you happen to find like a cool guy that you can raid with, he has a good team, it works well together with your team, you're online at the same hours, get one slot in your friend list open so you can add these people when needed. And yeah, I think this raid will be a success, not too difficult. We got all of the debuffs, that's the most important thing about raids, having all of the debuffs consistently up. So for that you're gonna need to have some of the Ekis, and I will go over the stats a bit later. Like what you're gonna need, what kind of stats, stuff like that. I will mainly use the spreadsheet for this, but for this thing I just want to show you like you don't need necessarily good runes, you just need like the correct units, focus on the correct stats, and at that moment you can already start to raid. So I'm just gonna watch out this, or like finish this run. I think it's doing fine. Like all of the teams are looking healthy. Like that's the thing, after like the third spray at the 25%, that's the most difficult part of raid pretty much. And that's where you see some people dying, because if you don't land enough debuffs like right after that, or like during the spray even, you don't have the attack debuff and the cleansing hit on the boss, then it can dish out a lot of damage. But as you can see here, like these guys, these are not good runes. These are just fairly beginner runes. You can get these runes within a couple of months playing pretty much. Like these are some better runes actually, but a lot of these runes you can get in a few months of playing, and that's why you should start doing raids. So actually the one guy died. Doesn't matter, don't right away rage quit, whatever, could have been just some bad RNG. Maybe his team actually is kinda bad, but that's the thing where it comes in, where it's more consistent with guildies rather than just going in these randoms. So, are we winning? Are we winning? Immobilize, peace, nice, good timing. Wow, kills it. So, nailed it. R3. Are we gonna get some good stuff? It's the same as doing like dungeons over and over. Like 3-minute run takes a long while. Sure, you're just a beginner. It's not that good. None of us actually got like a decent drop. But the thing is, I'm 100% sure that even though these are like really random stats that you're not looking for, I'm pretty sure a beginner can always place them. So for that reason, I really encourage you, if you're playing for a few months, you're already doing giants and dragons, not even necro, try to get into raid. Like you're gonna need a few 6-stars for it, it's gonna take a while, but really start raiding. So looking at the spreadsheet, I just made this by myself. Doesn't look good, I don't care. Yeah, just functional, and that's it. So in raids there's pretty much 5 kind of units that you need. You have an attack bar booster, which also has a debuffer. You have some healers, you have some support cleansers, you have some passives, and then you have the damage dealers. Pretty much any raid team will have those. I just set in like the units which are most common. Of course, there's a lot more units that can probably fill in, especially in the damage dealer role. But in the healer role and Cleanser Roll, these are the most common units, and also order them from like top to bottom as I would rate them for like best to worst. So to go over the units real quick, Bastet is pretty much the best unit in rating. She has a lot of debuffs, a shield that's really good, an attack buff that's really good, also an attack bar increase, so really good. Colleen, it's pretty much, if you don't have a Bastet, it's a must-have in every R5 team. Then you have healers. At some point, if you're really good at raiding at R5, then you can remove the healers and just rely on a Colleen or an NFL or something. Like a lot of these support units also have overlapping, because an NFL can also heal and an Armena can also heal. Economia can also heal, but not that well. And then a Belladion can also do some debuffs and stuff like that. So it has some overlap, and that's the most important thing for raid. If you would take certain units in that are not on this list, you have to check, like, are they doing multiple things? And the same for the damage dealers. These are damage dealers, but these are damage dealers with an effect. Like Hua is one of the best damage dealers simply because she's slowing the boss. There's not that many units that slow the boss that are that viable in raids. And she reduces the attack bar, super strong. Same for Shaolin, she does extra damage on her third skill based on the amount of debuffs on the enemy or on the boss, which is super strong because there's going to be a lot of debuffs in raiding. It's the most important thing that you have a lot of debuffs. On top of that, also has a slow and an armor break. Ardella, really odd unit, right? But the first skill actually armor break or attack debuffs on every time. So if you put her on a revenge, every time she revenge, she has the chance to do an attack debuff, which is like, this attack debuff is by far the most important debuff in all of R5. So that's why units like Bastet and Colleen are so key, because they do that on the first skill. And there's not that many units that actually have that on the first skill. So if you're taking off like units that are not on this list, I don't want to necessarily call them off meta, but take in account that you have enough attack debuff. So let's say you're a beginner, you're gonna start on R3, you must have a Colleen. It's a must. I will go over the runes a bit later. Yeah, I'll just go over the runes a bit later, because otherwise I'm messing like too many things. This is just for like team setups. So you would have a Belladion for sure. Darien, free to play choice. You need a cleanser. Cleansers are sometimes more difficult to add up to the strength where they can actually survive frontline. So I would place this one in the back. Maybe this one you also prefer in the back. Highly depends if you have enough rune quality that you can put it in the front. But these two in front can mostly do it. If you're a beginner R3, I would add in any other healer. Any. Doesn't matter who. Like, if it's a decent healer and you think it works out, use it. Also, I'm using the most free to play options right now. If you have any of these monsters, if you're like lucky to pull any of these other monsters like before that already, use them. Use them for sure. And then if you have a Hua, use her. Yeah, just keep it like this. You can see that it's a Hua. So if you have Hua, use her. Otherwise, Tiomar, super legit option. Ardella, super legit option. Those kind of things. And that's actually straight up also the team I would recommend for the beginner R5 as well. This is like, you gotta work on the units that you're gonna use later. So, and maybe at this point you would have pulled like a Lisa. You still have 2 healers, that's good. And then maybe you can add in like 2 damage dealers. Let's say you go this. Also, you still gotta check, do you have a viable leader skill? If you're just starting out in R5, there's 3 leader skills which are a must. One is leader skills. One is resist lead. Then you have the other one. Let's just say it like this. Wrap it down. Yeah. You have defense lead, and the other one is most likely crit lead. That looks horrible. Like that. That's so resist lead, couple of options. Most used option, DS. Not everyone has a DS, but it was HOH before, so it's quite a viable and reasonable option to have a DS. If you don't have a DS, but you happen to have a Praha, 41% res lead, decent healer, smart healer, which is also really important. Smart healers actually heal on the moment that a unit is low on HP. Colleen, however, is a dumb healer. She will just spam her skill because she thinks like, hey, I can apply a buff. Same for Economy. Economy is not necessarily a dumb healer because it will heal like either on low HP or a cleansing possibility, but it's also not necessarily the smartest choice. Whereas like a smart healer, Bella Dion is a really good option for that. But then again, would you rate Bella Dion higher or lower than Praha? I would rate Bella Dion higher than Praha because the first skill of Praha doesn't do anything but just waste a turn, and the second skill of Praha doesn't do anything but waste a turn. And when you waste a turn, the boss will get his counter of 15 turns, and that's a shit move. It will stun you, it will strip you, and it will just leave your wheels, your balls open or something like that. But that's like one of the most annoying skills. So that's why Praha on an R3, if you would have her like early game, would work. Beginner R5 maybe, but that's one of those units you kind of want to get rid of. So if you need a res lead, I would highly recommend going for DS. DS is, there's a lot of people that have DS, is by far the best res lead. Then you have a defense lead. As you can see in this team, there's no res lead, there's no defense lead, there's no nothing lead. On R3, you can get away with it. R3, you can definitely get away with it if you happen to have Hua, crit rate lead, Tiamar's crit rate lead. If you would have Thessarion, I didn't have the picture of Thessarion, but Thessarion actually has a 41% resistance lead as well. You could use that. It's a legit viable thing for R3 and R5. So let's continue. Yeah, these are, and then Bastet is mostly your defensive lead. It's like only a really certain amount of units. So if you're saying like, hey, I'm free to play, can I actually do R5 because I don't have certain leads? Yes, I actually made a video a long time ago. I will link that in the description as well. I don't want to go too much into it, but that video is like 15 minutes long. I talk about my team, which I use as R5 as a free-to-play player. All of these units were free-to-play to get, and the team was literally this and this, and I used the crit rate lead, and I think I could put her there. And that's also the team I would recommend as a beginner R5, unless you have a Hua, can replace him, and Shaolin can replace this one. So that's the thing, like the moment you get better units, you just go up the list and you use the unit that's like as high as on the list pretty much. So let's say you would have a DS, you can put it in. But yeah, beginner R5, I'll keep the free-to-play team. Then we go into the advanced R5. So I'm copying this team. I would say maybe you're lucky and you pull the Bastet. Then you don't necessarily need Colleen anymore, but you can still use her and you can remove the Bella. Then this one can replace this one. You put 2 damage dealers, pop, and a Lisa. So this is pretty much a team you would aim for later stage. Is there anything to add on top of that? No, that's, well, what you could do at some point if you're like getting good at R5 and you want to go for like a 3-man damage or like a 3 damage dealer team, you could potentially switch this one to the front, maybe make this one on vampire that it's surviving, and then you can add in like a 6th unit for just pure damage. Best options for those would probably Fae, other Kung Fu Girls, the Fire or the Wind Homunculus, even a Brandia, those kind of units. Then there's a lot of options. So these are like the main general units you would want to go for if you're doing R5. So I will show you a couple of clips from the other video. You can just watch that whole video, but I will show from like the beginner R5 team. So yeah, this is the video I was talking about. Again, I'll leave it in the description as well if you want to see the whole thing. But this is where I used the team as I recommended as a beginner R5. I didn't have max towers at the moment of recording this. This is not a fast run. This is even before I grinded out many things. It's a slow run, but it's essentially a really good run. The rune requirements aren't too high. You just need to have like everything like set up working together, have some people that also have like good setups, like good teams, and then you can make this work. So I'm not going to show the whole thing. If you want to see the whole thing, if you really want to go also for like the room requirements and stuff like that, actually just go to that video and then check it out. That video is like fully talking about how much of the room requirements you need to have and stuff like that. Just want to show it to the point where as you can see, my team, like the other two teams actually died. They had some more like non-free-to-play units, and this is like actually a super legit free-to-play team. So if you want to check that out, highly recommend that. This is actually a different team because I got like the resistance leader in there. Still works perfectly fine. Okay, so one more thing. Turn order. Turn order is rather important. If you would take a team like this, turn order should always be a attack like either the Bastet or the Colleen first. Then you need to have like an armor breaker, either one of those, and then your damage dealers, or probably your support is even faster than that. Not like that. And I'm missing the Darien. Darien could even go last. Doesn't matter that much, but the most important things is your debuffers go first. Debuffers and buffers go first, just as anywhere in the game, but that's the most important thing. Also for this team, it would look like this, 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 and then your damage. So that's rather simple. It's not too much to it actually, but that's just always like pretty much everywhere in the game. Buffers first, debuffers next, and then, or like debuffers first and then buffers, but either that first and then your damage. So yeah, as always, pretty much the same thing. So now where it's get interesting. Kata raids.